Let's just fucking go.
Let's fucking do it. I'm Kirsten.
And I'm Allie.
And you're listening to Thank You
So
So Much. Alright guys, this is our first time actually using the professional equipment.
Yes.
And bear with us as we're on our learning curve.
Yes.
Welcome to our podcast.
Welcome back to Thank You So Much.
Welcome back to Thank You So Much. One thing about us that you guys learned a while back is that we're both bisexual.
Yes.
And if there's anything you know about the queers...
The queers, they love astrology.
They sure do.
Let me tell you.
It's like the first thing you ask on the dating apps and when you meet new friends.
Especially in LA.
Especially in the City of Stars.
The
we
City
talk
of
about the stars.
Everyone's talking about the stars.
Yes.
So
we're just going to jump right in because...
Yeah, we got a lot to cover, and I know a lot of people are going to like this episode because a lot of people love astrology.
Yeah. So we brought in an old friend of mine and a new friend of Allie's.
Yes.
She is a writer and producer in LA, and we met at one of the events that I used to throw. I used to throw, well, still do, I guess, queer events for women and non-binary people, basically not cis men. And so we met years ago, and we've stayed friends, and she happens to be somewhat of an astrology expert, I would say. This is Elizabeth.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth, do you happen to be queer?
Yes. The answer is of course.
That just proves our point.
I think that being gay made me realize I had to also become an astrologer.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
It happens to all of us, I think.
What was like your first introduction to astrology? What were your first thoughts about it, like when you came to LA? Because I feel like that's being in LA too, especially. It's like
it's like a double whammy, triple whammy. Gay, LA, astrology, astrology. Gay,
astrology stereotype right now.
Astrology.
Astrology. You know.
Gay astrology, the party.
Yeah.
They really missed out on that.
Astrology.
They really
I think
did.
they should rebrand, honestly.
Yeah.
Although gay astrology just really rolls off the tongue too.
Yeah, that's
does.
true. That's true.
I actually, my initial impression of astrology was not the best. I was afraid of it because I grew up very much Orthodox Christian in the faith, and I thought astrology was akin to like fortune telling, and I just didn't know. It made me like apprehensive, so I didn't even like, if I ever was reading Cosmo, I would like flip away from the page that had like the basic pages that say like all the cancers are finding love this month.
Like,
I was like,
today,
no.
Satan.
I was like, this is not happening. Not allowed to look at that.
The devil lives in here.
Devil's in the details.
Yeah.
But honestly, that is couldn't be farther from the truth, because I am still very much in my faith, but I took a new look at it and a new look at astrology when I actually was during like COVID times, you know, the dark ages.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can I spend time looking into? And I had never really resonated with being a Cancer. So that's my sun sign, everybody. But I always was like, I'm not a Cancer. It doesn't feel right. And then I learned that I'm on the end of the Cancer season and I'm almost a Leo. So I'm like, oh, like this thing called cusps. And I was kind of like learning a lot about myself at this point. I had come out. I, lived in LA. Like I was like, I think I can dabble in astrology. I don't think like God's gonna be mad at me for that. And so I started learning about this thing called the cusps. And then I was like, whoa, this resonates. And then I learned from like legitimate astrologers that the cusp thing is not real. So sorry to everyone out there, audience members that are crying. You cannot be both. You
I'm
are
a
not.
cusp baby too.
Yeah, me
So
too.
When I heard it wasn't real, I was like,
Oh, damn, because it seemed like it was real.
Yeah, I was
it
like,
sounded
that
right
really
for me.
sounds
It
correct.
sounds like it might make sense, but it's like a radio station. You can't be on both. You have to be on one or the other, and every planet is in a different sign. So that's kind of jumping in, I guess, ahead a little bit. But like everyone says, oh, I'm a Cancer, I'm a Leo, I'm a Virgo, whatever it is. But that's people usually using their sun sign to define themselves when there's all the planets out there in the universe, the asteroids even, different points of importance, and they all have different signs. So if you were thinking about the cusp thing, you'd be like, they all all would be on different cusps potentially. So I got really like, oh my gosh, this is so much more complex than I thought. And I will admit, I have always been so into personality tests. Before astrology, it was the Enneagram. I was a huge Enneagram person. Enneagram 7 here, Wing 6, all you out there. All you Enneagram lovers.
Yeah,
but,
I remember there was a party we were at where we were really talking about Enneagram stuff a lot. And it's still something you're interested in, but
I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like I got so deep into astrology because of the complexity there and the amount of depth and where you can go with that information. And for me, in terms of like the faith thing, I just feel like astrology is a tool. It's a template. It is not a prescription. It doesn't mean if you have a planet or you have an aspect or whatever, it means, you're doomed or you're set, either way. I mean, a good example are just twins. My uncles are twins, grew up from the same family. They're, both guys, and nature nurture, very similar. And they're different people. Surprise. They have different lives,
Yeah.
So astrology for them would say that their lives are almost the same if you look at their charts, but it's not the case. One lives in California, one lives in Ohio. I mean, they're similar people, but again, it's not a prescription. And so I believe astrology is of God. God is still, like, in my belief system, at least, like the creator of everything. And astrology is a template we can use to learn about ourselves, learn about others, have a greater, like, appreciation and understanding for relationships. And just, it's a beautiful thing. I love astrology. I love God more. But astrology is a great tool. So that is, I guess, a long answer to your question.
Okay.
Well, I also think, like, if God created everything, then wouldn't astrology just be from him?
Yeah, it's like part of his creation.
Yeah, that's what I believe
or
too.
her creation.
Or her.
Or their creation. I was like, God
or
isn't
its creation. Well, no,
all
not
the above.
it.
But yeah, I mean, astrology is like it's kind of the whole idea that like everything happens for a reason at the moment that it was meant to happen. Like God put us on this earth, and my beliefs, like for at that specific intentional moment, and your astrology reflects that. It's all about the fact that you were born on a day at a specific time in a specific location, and what does that mean for your life and for what like the plans are out there for you and the people you're meant to interact with, and the challenges you might face. Like all of it, you can like learn so much in there. But astrology isn't heartfelt. I didn't lean on astrology when I was going through my breakup.
Yeah.
I didn't like, pray to astrology that they were going to bring me the thing I needed, but it is a great way to, again, just have a deeper understanding of yourself and others. And so that's why I fell in love with it back in 2020.
Yeah, so it's like a tool for you to kind of understand your personalities and how it intermingles with the world and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go into like the basics. I know usually when you're meeting people for the first time, your sun sign is what everybody knows.
Yes.
And then there's also rising and moon.
Yes.
But there's more than that. Can you give us just like a basic of like each?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So people usually say, what's your big three? If you really want to impress people, you want to date with a girl or a guy. We're not going to, or an anybody, all of y'all out there. And your big three, you're already a step ahead of the game. So big three, moon, sun, rising. Moon moves every 2.5 days, so it's much more personal to you than the sun, which is in the same sign for like 30 days-ish, about a month. And then the rising's every 2.5 hours around that. So that's moving very quickly. So those 3 planets are like 2 planets in the point really is like kind of about your identity. And then if you say like the big 6 or 7, that's going to include like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn even. And as you go outward from where like the sun is and where Earth is, it's going to be more generational. So sun is like it's pretty personal to you. Moon's even more personal, Venus and Mercury. But as you move out kind of into like Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, those are more generational planets. So that means that like all 3 of us probably share like Neptune, maybe Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, we probably all Scorpio, Pluto generation. So that is like kind of another example why you understand people really well that are born around the same time as you, because you share a lot of those planets. They're all in the same signs. And as time moves on, those planets will move, and so different generations. So it's really interesting when you think, I mean, again, there's like the planets we all know, the ones I probably just mentioned, but there's small, minor things, asteroids, and all of these elements that are in the solar system, the universe, they all have an effect on you. But again, the most effective ones are going to be like the big ones: sun, moon, rising. That's why everyone knows those ones. But as you get more into astrology, you want to know your Venus. Like, how do you love? Mercury, how do you communicate? Like, Jupiter is like spirituality and abundance and how you attract things into your life. So you just keep going and going with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So your sun, if we talk about the big three, what does each of them mean about your personality? I've heard like your moon is your emotions. Yeah. So tell us
I feel
more
like
about.
you know. Like,
Well, but you know better. You know better. So
okay, I like that.
I'm like, is it emotions?
Yeah, I just know my big three because of co-star.
Co-star.
I like every time someone asks me, I always forget. So I
Yeah,
open it and I'm like,
same.
what is my moon and what is my rising?
I literally always
mix them
forget.
up.
Yeah.
Hopefully after this, you guys will be like so confident. You'll be like, this is my rising.
Yeah.
This is my moon. And maybe you'll even know another one. You'll be like, oh, and my Venus, or this is my Mars. How I
'Cause
assert myself.
We might be getting a little reading.
You're getting a little,
might be
yeah.
getting
A little bit of
A little
one.
bit of a reading.
I can't wait. I love impromptu readings. That's a really good party trick.
Yeah,
I'll be at a party and I'll be
I
like,
bet.
oh yeah, like when was your birthday? Or like
Yeah.
they'll like say something like, oh, I'm like 25, I'm 28. I'm like, oh, like what? I don't just turned 29. When did you turn 29? And then they'll just give me the information and I'll just keep going from there.
So you're not
You're
like,
like,
blatantly like, what's your sign?
Let's sit down and
Yeah,
read.
I try not to unless I'm really hitting it off with someone and I'm like, oh, I'm hitting it off with them. Why am I hitting it off with them?
Yeah.
What did the stars say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sun is like the essence, the core of you, kind of. It's like, how do you shine, right? Like what is like it's really the core of you. And then if you look at the yin to the yang, right? The yin and yang would be sun and moon. So the moon is going to be the inverse of that. The like emotions inside, like kind of like how your belief system, like how you relate to things emotionally, how you process things emotionally. So it's really like kind of the feminine to the masculine moon, and using feminine masculine not in like girl guide terms, but like yin yang is also a good way to put it, to not put like genders on these planets. But there are more feminine and more masculine planets in terms of how they operate, whether it's more inward or outward. And then the rising sign is how you come off to people. So that's why, as a good example, using myself, when I was always like, I don't feel like a Cancer. Well, when I learned what my rising sign was, it made sense that I resonated with a Leo Cancer cusp. So Leo's a fire sign, Cancer's a water sign. Aries, I'm an Aries rising, so I'm a fire rising. So it made sense that I kind of resonated with like that whole cusp thing, because I do have fire in me, and it is how people sometimes perceive me as a rising Aries, because that's kind of how I come off more.
Yeah.
But as people get to know you, they'll probably see your moon and your sun really well, especially your moon. Your moon is like, some people say it's actually who you really are, because it's kind of who you are
Like
on the
your
inside. Your
yeah.
inner child, inner self. So getting to know someone's moon, I mean, I personally think that moon compatibility is very important. I think that's like huge, because you want to be emotionally understood,
Yeah. Well, it's making me think about, like, we talked about Carl Jung and, like, your inner and outer self. I wonder if it's, like, Freud's ego and id, and, like, your id is your moon, and then your ego is your sun.
Ego definitely has a sun relation for sure.
Yeah.
But
I'm just trying to, like, make a connection.
Yeah.
But you could maybe think of it that way a little bit, like, psychologically.
yeah, there's so many draws. I mean, astrology's been around for thousands of years. Like, people have been studying astrology. There's Western astrology, there's Vedic astrology, which is like more Indian astrology, Hellenistic. Like, it's so complex. That's the thing. It's really hard to put it in a box.
Yeah.
Because there's different house systems, there's different like ideas for, the signs, even if you do different like Vedic versus Hellenistic versus Western. So it's just so complex. It's nuanced. People spend their whole lives studying astrology, and you can really never know it all. And it's really like, it's subjective. You're interpreting things. You're not like, it's not like this is the way. If you look up like, what does it mean to be this sign, or what does it mean to have this, an aspect is basically the relationship between two planets. So all the planets are always communicating with each other, whether it's really an easy flow, like two water like signs would be flowing with each other, or a water and an earth sign, whereas a fire and an earth sign would be clashing. So the way they communicate isn't going to be as smooth. And so knowing like where are the planets, do you have your sun and your moon both in water signs, are really pleasant talking to each other, like, oh, we get each other, my moon gets my sun, it's like all cohesive? Or is it like a fire moon with a water sun, where you've got this conflict, the way you're on the inside is not matching who you are on the outside? And
I never thought about it that way, but yeah.
yeah,
Like
so
that's how the elements like kind of come into it. Yeah.
So there's elements, there's modalities, there's signs, there's houses. It's so complex, and that's why I've spent so many hours studying it, because not because I have a purpose in like I want to do something with it necessarily. Like I do want to do more readings. I truly enjoy reading people and reading for relationships between people. But I just truly couldn't help myself, because there's so much to know and to pour into, and you give a lot, but you get a lot back. Like I learned so much about myself, and it makes you feel like understood too, because like you're reading things about some deep parts of yourself that you might not have encountered or confronted, but it's written down like this is what this means, and it resonates.
It makes sense. So like you've done readings before, but have you ever like done it for money? Just curious.
I have not been paid for it. No, I haven't really asked.
Is that something you would want to do?
Oh yeah, I would, just because I think, you know, it's like paying somebody for the time they spent learning the thing, right? Like all the hours they put into learning the thing. So now that it comes really naturally now, but it was so much time put into it, you know, and joyfully. Like it wasn't something where I was like, I want to do this to make money. Like I never thought that at all, and I haven't. But it's like I get a lot of like meaning out of just helping people feel understood and understand like how to reconcile different parts of themselves.
And there's value in that.
Yeah, I think so. But I've done them for free. So I've done them free for friends, family, random people at parties.
But it's also a good way to like perfect it, or perfect how you do it yourself, and like know what works. But yeah, I like that. I've heard that said about art. Yeah, maybe I can make this in 2 hours, but that's also counting all of the time that I spent learning how to do it. And it's like that with a lot of things, like hair, and like, okay, maybe this only took like this amount of time, but
I went to school for this long, and I paid this much money to go to school. I'm still going to classes, and I'm spending money on my shears, and
you can't value the end product as just a single service. It's all about what built up to get that end product. So I think that's such a like good artist like conversation. And you know, and anything really, I mean, so many jobs, they pay you for the outcome, but they don't pay you for the process.
Right.
But you have to kind of bake the process into the outcome, which is why astrology readings are expensive. They really are.
And it's like valuable for people. So like it can be life-changing to have a good reading for people, because it's like really makes you like think about the outcomes and in your life, and like
especially if you really believe in it. Like in India, I feel like they're always like everybody's always getting readings from astrologists, because they kind of like that's one of their beliefs. So they'll get a reading about like love or whatever, and it's like really popular to pay people for that over there. I don't know if it's as popular. I guess it would be in California.
In California, I'm sure there's a lot of people that pay a lot of money.
I don't know if you could go to Ohio and be like
looking for it as much.
But you'll probably still find people, but it's not going to be as like crazy as it is here.
Also, I feel like it's like so accessible now. Like the information is online. That it's not as like, if you want to learn about your chart, you can do so with so many like tools. Like I will plug Time Passages. That is my favorite app. I am going to hype that app. Time Passages.
Is that how you learned a lot?
No, that was like more once I knew things. I wanted to have a way to like track things going on and just like be able to read people's stuff really easily and have it saved, like the charts all saved. But for people that don't know, it is a really good tool to learn about your own stuff, and it's free. You can pay for the pro version, which is like a $40 one-time fee. I literally don't work for them, but I love this app. It is my favorite app on my phone. Beats Instagram. Buy it. You should get a sponsorship with them.
I
know, right? This podcast goes viral. And Time Passages
one episode,
100,000 downloads. Time Passages, hire me.
I would take that part out. I'd be like, nah, you pay me times Passages.
Right?
Pay Elizabeth.
Well, you guys are the hosts, and but honestly, there's so much free tools out there that if you don't have the resources to pay somebody 100, 200 to read your chart, you can still find all. Like I learned so much before I got my first reading, and even now I've only gotten one official reading, natal chart reading, and one solar return reading, which is like when your birthday happens, you can see kind of what your next year will look like based on what the planets are, where they're all at on the day, on the moment that the sun returns to where it was when you were born.
Oh, cool.
Gotcha.
So there's again so much to this all. You could just do people take lots of classes to learn everything, but But yeah, I love it.
So what are houses?
So houses are like the areas of life that these things are happening in. So you might have different planets in different houses. So your first house is like house of self. That's why it's like the house of your rising sign. So that's why it's so important to know what time exactly you were born.
I was about to ask, like, why is that so important?
So the time you were born, it's like every 2.5 hours the rising sign change is moving. It's like the sign that's coming over the eastern horizon the moment you were born. So it's beautiful. To me, astrology is an art. It's an art. And it is divine. Like God put us on this earth at the moment we were put on earth, and astrology reflects that. It shows like where was the sun, where was Venus, what was happening between all the planets the moment you were born, and what does that say about you? And I think it's amazing. It's such an incredible tool that people like should spend more time getting into. But that time is so important, because if you're an hour off, 30 minutes off, it might be a whole different rising sign, and that's very important, because it's kind of like the big three, like really, really important to who you are and how you navigate, because that rising sign starts off the house system. Your first house is occupied basically in that rising sign. So I'm a rising Aries, so my first house is Aries, and there's 12 houses, 12 signs. I like whole sign, which means every sign occupies every house occupies one full sign. So my first house is all Aries. My second house is Taurus, and it goes like that. But there's other house systems where it might be half of Aries is my first house, and then Taurus is the other half of my first house. Like it's a little bit more, it's called like intercepted. So, but I like whole sign. I think it's really helpful and easy to understand astrology when it's like that too, especially for beginners. But yeah, the time is so important, because your rising sign is kicking off like what house is house of self, what house is house of relationships, which is like the 7th house of marriage, partnership, and that's across from the first house, which is interesting when you think about like house of self, you, and what's across from you, what's the other, like partner, relationship. What we see is what we don't have, we look for in other, and that's like the house across from the first house, which is the 7th house.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture it visually, because I have seen it, like it's circle. Like a circle, and then with all the planets like within the circle based on your specific
the
chart.
Timing and everything, and then the house is occupying like as it goes 1 to 12, and 12th being the last house. And if you go by, I guess, like Aries is naturally the first sign. So if you are a rising Aries, then it kind of your chart is going to go a little bit more cohesively in a way. Like it makes sense, because like Aries is the first sign, Pisces is the last sign. So it kind of makes very intuitive sense. But if you're like, let's say, a rising Taurus, then your first house is Taurus and your 12th house is Aries. So everything moves a little bit. So again, it's very personal, and like each house means different things. You've got house of like public image, and usually that's like career and work and what people know you for, which is often career, but could be something else, could be your family, could be anything. You have like your 4th house, which is opposite to most public house. It's kind of the most private house. It's like where you came from, how you were raised, the generational things, your family, traditions, all of that, and that's the 4th house. So you can see it's all balanced. Things that are across from each other, everything's in balance, everything's kind of equilibrium. Like it's like everything, like things oppose each other, and those different ideas, like self versus other, like public image of you versus the most private part of you, which is usually family and where we come from.
There's like a lot of polarities with it.
So the more you understand it and study it, it's just like you learn so much just understanding the whole framework. But again, it is a high like barrier to entry. There's so much information, and I was overwhelmed. I will say I know a lot of now, but it was overwhelming.
It's a lot to take in. Yes, I want to know like who started like creating this system of like how to explain it and how to like with all
the houses and like the charts and
because it really is like a science. I mean, people say it's like a pseudoscience, but like it's meticulous like a science would be, you know, and everything's defined and it's not chaotic. Like there's order to it.
Exactly. And it is all about like numbers and angles and degrees, and I mean it's not like this kind of like you know, vague visual, like it's very specific. Like even the degree of a planet has meaning to it. The number of that's called like degree theory. But the number like the degree that the planet is has its own meaning. Like you can find meaning in so much of it, but it is like a science. Like maybe a pseudoscience, but like a science. And I would love to know too exactly how it came to be in this format,
like who started this.
But people have been studying it. I mean, astronomers and people like looking into the sky, charting the paths of planets that we could see, and we can see a lot of them, and then putting, I guess, some associations with those planets, maybe depending on how the crop was and how or how like weather was, or I mean the moon like affects emotions a lot, just like the moon affects the tides, you know.
I always say that the moon affects the tide, and we are 70% water, so why wouldn't it affect us too?
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
you know, it totally.
That's
does.
a good way to think about it.
I'm
and a good way to remember it too.
Yeah, I'm like, well, if the moon has that effect, then it's not that far out that planets would have that effect.
Like our energy is. Yeah.
I love that. I heard that before too, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like the moon pulling the tides of the ocean, and then we are water, basically. We're like mostly water. So wouldn't it pull our own? Yeah. So
we're liquid.
We're liquid. We're a lot of
liquid inside of us.
Mermaids.
So I want to know about these motherfucking retrogrades.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's like something we always hear, like Mercury's in retrograde. But I like learned not recently, but I learned that there's not just Mercury.
Yeah, all the planets can be in.
Yeah, and a lot of them have been lately.
Yeah, Venus was.
Yeah, Venus and a lot of the exterior planets like Uranus, Neptune, like Saturn. Some planets spend more of the year retrograde than others, like the outer planets do. Like in my natal chart, I think I have like 3 or 4 planets in retrograde, but the more inner planets is when you feel it more, you know, like a Mercury or a Venus.
Oh, so is that why like a lot of times Mercury is the big one that people talk about because it's closer?
It's close and it affects so much.
Yeah, it messed me up this time.
Oh, what happened?
It was just like nothing worked on my computer. There was like crazy stuff happening. Like everyone was depressed. Like
wait, when was that?
Communication was bad. It was recently over.
It was I just
and like
finished.
It seemed like the day it finished, everything was like lighter and
you felt it.
Yeah, like just more
air
calm.
lifted.
And,
I mean that would make sense for me too because
that's what makes
quit
me
my
believe
job
in
and
in Kadar too. That's what makes me believe in astrology because I freaking feel it.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely got like my share of the Mercury retrograde stories of things just going the opposite, you know, because
what is the planet like? What is retrograde? Like, what does that mean?
So from where?
That's the part
I know, isn't it funny? And you're like, is a planet moving backwards?
Yeah, like
it's not. It's moving the normal way. We are at a place where it looks like it's moving backward. Where we are on Earth, the planet seems like it's going backwards, but it's not. It's just our view. But the way it affects us is like basically the planet's energy is not moving outward anymore. It's moving inward, and things. It's kind of like just those things that the planet affects kind of can malfunction during that time. So like with Mercury, it might be like you miss your flight, you know, the Uber doesn't pick you up. Maybe you send a text and it's totally misconveyed and it's a big fight comes out of it.
That's the stuff that always happens to me.
It like just like clockwork, twice a year. I think 2 times a year I think that Mercury goes retrograde, maybe more. Venus is only every 18 months, so that's why it's a bigger deal when like Venus goes retrograde because it's only every year and a half.
So it's based on the placement, like where the Earth is in rotation, like to whatever planet.
Yes,
and then like how it's viewed
and how we view it, and it just I mean that's what I've read at least, and also disclaimer: I hope everything I'm saying is true. I think it is. I've read a lot.
It's the same for us. Like we have to do a lot of research for our episodes, and we know we get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah, even then, it's like, I don't think I said that right.
I'd like to think that everything I'm saying is accurate, and I have read it, but there is, again, so much nuance and so much extra information that we could do a whole podcast on just Mercury retrograde. Like, literally just a whole podcast on just
I know, that's what
retrograde.
I was thinking. Like, as we go on with our episodes, I think we're going to have to, like, narrow things down. Because we've been doing these big, broad topics. Yeah. And it's like, we did astrology, we did personality tests, but it's like, so it's like we could break it down to the Enneagram, like each personality test. So like in the future, I think we will do like full episodes. But for now, it's like more broad, which can get a little crazy. Yeah.
And you can get broad with astrology, like 100%, but it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, there's so much I want to say. I have to hold myself back because you can just, I mean, I love it. I love telling people about it because it feels like a gift I get to share. Yeah. But it gets complex.
I'm happy that you're sharing it with us.
I know, I'm excited.
Thanks for inviting me.
Should we jump into our charts?
Let's do it.
Want to do Kirsten's first?
Well, what's your thought about CoStar? Because CoStar is the one that everybody's on. It's like the social
doing it.
Yeah. But I've heard mixed thoughts about CoStar, and I want to know what your thoughts are about it.
CoStar will not be sponsoring me for this. love CoStar. I like that it's accessible to people and it makes astrology a little bit more tangible. But I do think it lacks a lot. I specifically don't like how they show the charts. They don't really like emphasize the circle. They make it more about the little like boxes in the side. You know what I mean?
The way they visualize
the way they visually
yeah.
show it. They just don't really offer the information to back up what they're saying. They just kind of like are making like broad stroke sweeping things like, oh, today you might want to put your toe in a puddle of water.
Yeah, I know the suggestions are wild sometimes.
Snickerdoodle cookie.
Yeah.
See, so yeah, I just think it's like funny, interesting. I don't really use it anymore. It was like I did have it at a point. I mean, who didn't? Who's into astrology?
Yeah.
But I don't recommend it for people. I recommend like Time Passages as a favorite.
I'm gonna download Time Passages right now.
Time Passages, man. That's what
Wait,
it's about.
Is there a free trial? Cause
there's a free version, yeah.
Oh,
so you don't even
okay.
need to get the paid one unless you get into astrology.
Which
I will
maybe
say,
after this episode, we're going to be astrology girlies.
we be queens.
I'm about to give some readings over here.
I'm going to come back here and you guys are going to be reading my chart.
No,
You're like, Elizabeth, did you know
Listen,
this?
we
Sit
did
down.
some weird research.
We found out
You're
some
like,
stuff.
wow. The 0 to 100 crash course in astrology. And
So
the Pattern's also a good app, but
Oh yeah,
but
Pattern
like the
is
Pattern.
one I know that
But
you.
I used to be a homie with Pattern, and now they charge a lot to
Oh,
give you the
really?
same information they used to give you for free, and that don't seem right with me.
Yeah, well,
I get it. You gotta
You'd
make your
think that
dollar.
if you downloaded the
but
app before, they would just like give you that.
no, they make you pay for a lot now, and I don't pay for it because
That's
I
how
don't
it
need
be
to.
with
Yeah.
these startups. That's how it be with
Yeah.
everyone. Like Uber became more
I
expensive.
know.
Airbnb used to be cheap, but it's not anymore. That's
Nope.
how it is.
Time passages, man. Please don't do me one like that.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't
do
do me
it.
like that.
Well, you already paid for the premium, so
I
like,
know.
so I don't think that
If
they
they
can
try
take
to
that
make me like
back.
subscribe to something, I'm
Oh
gonna
my
cry.
god, yeah,
I'll
they
be like,
change it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kirsten, we are buddies, and I've already looked at your chart before. So
yeah, we don't have to go like.
I know it a little bit more. So Kirsten and I are both Cancers, which means I definitely understand her based on our mutual sun signs. And then your moon is in Taurus, and you're a rising Capricorn. So your big three, at least, just starting there, is comprised of 2 earth signs and 1 sun sign. So you're pretty cohesive in terms of your big three, how you are as a person, because earth and water are friendly with each other.
Yeah.
So those are 2 that they get along, just like air and fire get along, and obviously the same ones, water get along really well.
Wait, so Taurus is water,
It's Cancer's water.
Cancer's water.
Yeah,
Got
the
it.
crab.
Mhm.
And then Taurus and Capricorn are earth signs.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
and then Virgo is the 3rd.
Mhm.
And so for you, there is a cohesiveness between your sun and your moon and how you present yourself as a rising Capricorn. You have a groundedness to you, and you also are, in touch with your emotions a little bit more as a Cancer sun, and you're definitely very, like, probably someone that cares about people, cares about your relationships, like fosters those relationships. For you, you have your sun in your 7th house because you're a rising Capricorn, which is your 1st house, and the 7th house, so 7 signs away from Capricorn, is Cancer. So your sun's in your house of relationships. So relationships are very important to you. And you are somebody that
We'll post a picture of our charts so that if you
Yeah.
guys are listening, you can see the chart.
you can check
Yeah.
it out, and
Yeah.
you can see how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to see where your sun and your moon are actually from each other. And yeah, they're really friendly with each other. Actually, they're really like it's called a sextile, your sun to your moon, which is like 60 degrees ish.
What is Capricorn? Earth?
Earth, yes.
Okay.
So rising earth sign. So yeah, rising Capricorn. I do love my Capricorns. I'm a Capricorn moon, so I feel you. But rising Capricorns kind of can have a hard go of it. Capricorn is definitely a sign that's like it's the goat. It's literally the goat moving up the mountain, like step by step by step, and it's going to get to the top, but it's not going to be easy. So Capricorns sometimes have a little bit of harder time. They go through some hard things, and they are
Is that
always.
why I keep changing my career
Yeah.
drastically?
So I should look and see where your 10th house is. So rising Capricorn is a sign that like it's very much kind of like a glow uppy kind of position where it's like you'll reach it, but you will have to go through some hard times and it will challenge you. And another good thing to know is that the planet that is the planet of your rising sign, so there's a planet that's like associated with each sign essentially. And so for Capricorn, your rising sign, you have a ruling planet. And so the ruling planet is basically the planet of your rising sign.
Okay.
So for Capricorn, that's Saturn. For Aries, for me, that's Mars. And that means that planet has some extra significance and emphasis in your life.
Okay.
It's the planet of Saturn. And Saturn as a planet is the planet of kind of like father
I didn't
time.
even know this part.
Oh,
The planet thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so Saturn's important for you, and Saturn is kind of known as father time. Saturn is like the father time, but being like, you need to earn these things. I'm going to put you through challenges and trials, and it's not going to be easy, and you're going to hate me for it, but eventually you're going to see why I did that, and it's going to be worth it because you're going to go higher than you would have, and higher than maybe others would, because you had to go through those harder times and those challenges early on.
Oh.
So Saturn is not always everyone's favorite planet, but it does bless, and it gives abundance eventually in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So Capricorns have a little harder of a go, but they are badasses. Capricorns are the ones running businesses, running the world, literally just like killing it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But they had to go through some hard stuff to get there. And both Capricorn, another way of thinking of that kind of like opposing factors, they both want the same things. It's kind of two sides of the same coin. Capricorn and Cancer, what they're both trying to do is build a home. Capricorn's doing it like, I'm going to be this badass. It's like bringing home the bacon. I'm going to get the job. I'm going to work. I'm going to create that home by making sure I have enough and I'm like capable. And then Cancer on the other side is like the nurturer. They're the mother. It's like people think of them the father and mother of the zodiac is like Capricorn and Cancer. So both of them have the same goal. They both want a family. They both want to create a home, but they're doing it in different ways. So when they come together, it's really powerful, but sometimes they might oppose because it's like, I don't think you need more emotion. And Capricorn's like, no, you need to, get some like, resources to create a home. You can't just be all about emotions, So they're both like, support each other in a way because they both have the same goals, but they can also butt heads, and that's why they're like opposing each other. So that's just a good way of looking at like two signs opposite each other that they both have the same goal.
Yeah. Okay.
And you have both those signs in
and
your
Taurus,
big three.
Taurus is my moon.
Yes.
And
So that's how you are.
That's my
inside.
my inner.
Emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
So grounded. Probably Taurans are kind of known for wanting like a little bit of bouginess. Like they like to like have the comforts in life, and they like their like routines, and they really like to be stable. They're very like routine beings.
Yeah, routine is good for me.
Want to be taken care of and want to have enough, and kind of again like similar because all the earth signs have that theme of like groundedness, of like reliability, consistency, stability, and those are definitely things that Taurus would like. And Taurus is a really good place for the moon, actually. The moon like loves being in Taurus. The favorite position for the moon is Cancer, but the second favorite is Taurus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's different placements that planets like. There's placements that planets don't like, and Taurus is a place that the moon really enjoys. So that's nice.
How do you get like? What does it mean that the moon enjoys it? Like,
so there's like it's known as like exalted, and I think it's like domicile, and then there's detriment and fallen. So those are like the 4 different places they can be. The other places are just kind of like maybe more neutral, but there's the 4 that's like fallen, detriment, exalted, and domicile.
Okay.
And so I think it's exalted in Cancer, it's in domicile in Taurus, and then it's fallen in Capricorn, which is where my moon is, and actually where your moon is, because I saw your chart. So moon doesn't love being there. And then I think it's fallen in Scorpio too, which makes sense. That tracks. Scorpio is a little rough place for the moon to be. Not happy there. But yeah, and so the rest are like more like net zero. But people could have opinions about different moon signs. Like for me, I'm like, I'll take another Capricorn moon. Then you have like other moons, like fire moons for me, that might not work as well, because a fire and an earth moon would be a little bit more like a, like
a clash.
Yeah, and you know what I'm thinking of right now. Why I'm saying that.
Yeah. The X.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so those are your big 3, and that's how they all interact with each other. But those are only 3 things. Like, and the rising again isn't in a planet. You don't have a planet there. It's a point, and that's where your rising sign is, and then the moon and the sun. But they all really speak well between each other. That actually is nice, because it does show like there's a cohesiveness and there's a flowiness to you between the 3 parts that make you kind of who you are. And again, there's all the other things that also make you who you are. The way you communicate, very important. Mercury. Venus, the way you love, very important. But those big 3 elements of kind of like your identity and how you like show up in the world is fluid and flows for you. And I think the other ones are honestly pretty, you do have some fire. You actually do have a lot of Leo too. So Leo probably really resonates for you. You have your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, your Jupiter. You actually have a stellium in Leo. So a stellium is when 3 or more planets, personal planets, not like those outer generational ones, but the personal ones, the ones I listed just now, including and as well as moon and sun, all those. If you have more than 3 in one sign, it's called a stellium. And it just means that sign has like extra emphasis for you because you have so many planets there. My sister has that for Capricorn. You have that for Leo. And it's cool, but it means probably that you probably resonate with Leo. If you read Leo stuff, you're like, yeah, that checks. But you wouldn't know.
What is a Leo supposed to be like again?
So Leos are very loyal. They are loyal to a fault. They are loyal to their friends, loyal to their family. They're the lions. They are proud. They need to be appreciated. They need to be applauded. They want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved, but Leos have a need and an urge to be recognized and be appreciated. And so that's why they're often in the arts and they're in, positions of performing. I don't think you can find a city with more rising Leos than LA. Literally. Everybody's a rising Leo. Shout out to my sister. I love them. I love a rising Leo because I'm a rising Aries. So the rising fire signs, I'm like, I get you. You're my person.
Oh,
but
I wonder what Langston's rising is. I got to look it up.
I know. I love, relationship astrology.
So much fun.
My favorite thing. So for Leo, for you with Leo, that would make sense. And the way you love, the way you communicate, the way you assert yourself.
Wait, what was that called again when you have more than 3?
Stellium.
Stellium.
Stellium. So just stellium.
Oh, stellium. Got it.
Stellium.
That's cool. I like that word. Stellium.
Stellium. Stellium. Yeah, so that's cool. You have a stellium. So knowing that, you know more now than your big 3, that you can like look at Leo stuff and it will probably resonate to how you love, to how you assert yourself, which is Mars, which Mars is inclusive of like sex, but also like how you literally assert yourself, how you take action. Mercury, how you communicate, and Jupiter, abundance, spirituality. So you have this cluster of planets in the sign of Leo.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It makes it easier for me to like understand my chart too, because it's not as many to.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm actually curious how close they all are to each other. Okay, they're actually scattered a little bit around. But it's cute. You have Venus and Mars right next to each other, which is like attractive and draws people to you. It's magnetic. Like that's a nice place to have them together. Venus and Mars close to each other.
Cool.
Sexuality.
Wow.
So there was something like, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was something about Pluto that you were telling me that happens to people usually around their late 20s, early 30s.
Oh, Saturn.
Yeah, what is
Saturn
that?
return.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
heard of that.
Yeah, because I feel like we're all like in there, or like just maybe it's just ending.
Left it.
Yeah.
Somebody's always going through Saturn return. It's people between 28 to 30.
Oh,
Saturn.
We're past
So we
it.
just
you passed it. You guys
we're past
are
it.
done. I'm in
But
it.
you're
Actually,
in it.
I'm about to hit it direct next March. So shout out to my Saturn return next March. Here we come. Don't ruin my life, please. But yeah, when you turn 29-ish, that's how long it takes Saturn to make an entire trip around the zodiac. So when I was born at 11 degrees, that's where Saturn was in Pisces. And in March, Saturn will be again 11 degrees in Pisces. And a mentor of mine, funny enough, she is exactly 29 years older than me-ish. And so she's going to be going through her Saturn return again.
Oh.
You keep going. You're not done.
Wow. So you
29
could
plus
have
29.
like 3 in a
If
lifetime.
you're lucky, 3.
Yeah.
If you're really, I don't think 4. I don't know if 4 is going to work. That's
Probably not possible.
Well, I did read that scientists think that we're going to live to 120.
I just saw that too.
like
And
our generation is?
yes.
Oh.
Well, it's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, people have already.
Only one person has lived to 120.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the article
That's
said.
surprising.
Yeah,
I
but they definitely live like over 100, 110.
I wonder what I wonder if that's true. If our generation is gonna are we gonna live 20 more years?
I
That's
hope not.
crazy.
like,
well, more than 20, because even 100 seems like a lot.
100 is well. Yeah, I
I'd say
think
more
like
like
90
30
is usually
years.
like when people kick it.
Yeah.
Like if you have good health, like 90,
Yeah.
80, 85,
It's
90.
kind of cool to be a century.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I hit 100, I'm gonna be like, thank you, Jesus.
Mhm.
Take me now. It depends how you're doing. Depends how you're doing, though. Right?
Yeah.
I would probably be like, all right, I'm good. I'm
like
ready.
your grandma.
Yeah, oh my God, my grandma, she just passed away at 98. And she, for the last like 10 years has been like, I don't know why I'm still here. I'm ready to die.
Really?
Yeah, she's like, all my friends are dead. Like,
Oh, it's kind of sad.
she's like, it's just,
Grandma.
you know, like, why me? Like, why am I still here?
Special. What does she do? What is her tricks?
She drinks black coffee all day long.
Wow.
I really think it's like a mentality or just lucky genetics.
Yeah, I think
like,
it's both. Yeah.
You know what though? It's cool to look at your family's astrology. I do it all the
I
time.
would
Oh,
love
yeah.
to. I would love to see
I
my
mean,
grandma's
now that
astrology.
I have this app, I'm gonna look up.
You just grab
Some
their birth
people.
certificates when you're home.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you have
Yeah.
to know the time. Yeah.
It's important. But yeah, I love it. You can look and see like generational stuff through your charts. You know,
Hmm.
you can look multiple generations, grandparents to your
Wait, why
parents
does
to-
location matter?
Because
Oh,
depending
because time?
where, yeah,
Oh, okay.
the time was
Yeah.
different. You know,
Yeah.
7 p.m. in Ohio is 4 p.m. in LA, which is why your solar return chart is going to be different than your actual birth chart because it's always a little different. You know, even if you're born the same day as somebody, it might be a little different. But we haven't read your chart. So that-
Yeah, so it'll be different because we just met. And
Yes.
Yeah. You don't know
you
anything
don't
about
know
her yet,
anything.
really.
Well,
I know I won't be able to go off of like knowing somebody for years.
yeah.
Like cheating.
So bring it on.
Cheater! Cheater! Okay, so I already know a little bit because we have the same moon sign, both moon in Capricorn, sun in Pisces, rising Cancer. Okay. So you and I have two of the same, and actually we all three share Cancer and Capricorn.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, look at us.
We're strong
The
people.
three amigos.
Yes.
That's cool. So you actually are kind of similar then to some of the stuff I was saying about her. Your rising sign is Cancer. So like wanting to nurture or make a home, being a little bit guarded at times. Cancers are very quick to pull up that like shell if they feel like someone is like coming at them, you know, or they can't trust somebody. Like people might be like, you seem distant, or you're harder to read, harder to open up because they have that crab shell, the kind of the symbol of Cancer. And on the opposite side for you, your moon, where you feel emotionally safe and your emotions, is in your 7th house. So you probably do feel very emotionally safe and secure when you're in a relationship because that's where your moon is.
Which is funny because when I first met her, she was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. Like, but now, now
you're in it. So for you, it's like, yeah, you have your moon in Capricorn, which means, again, the moon isn't the most happy there. And I'm speaking out of love because I'm a fellow Capricorn moon, so I feel you. But Capricorn is not the most friendly to feelings. Capricorns are, because they've had to be really strong. And to be like, oh, moon, you have to be strong. Moon's like, no, I want to have my emotions. So they kind of conflict there. Whereas Cancer is like, yes, feel the emotions. Swim in the emotions. The moon's like, yes, I feel so happy here. Capricorn's like, no, that is not productive. We need to be working. Like Capricorn moons get a lot of their emotions out by working. Like if you're feeling a hard emotion, you
You
might
think that's true?
be productive and work. Like I had moments where I've been like, oh, I'm upset. I'm going to start working. I can get ahead of work. Like I'm going to push that away and just work or be productive.
Like
or
take
do
your
the
mind
thing.
off it.
Yeah, get your mind off the feelings and don't feel them, you know? Because it's uncomfortable. It's not productive. Maybe you were told it's wrong, you know? Because the moon is also where we come from too. It's like where did you learn how to feel? You know, usually your childhood. And so maybe there was a reason you felt you had to be capable, you had to be enough, and your emotions weren't going to make you. Feeling emotions wasn't going to be the best thing for the situation. Maybe you didn't feel safe enough to feel those emotions. So you compartmentalize, or you kind of like have more of a wall up, you know, especially being a rising Cancer too. It's like an additional like layer of kind of a wall in a way. You have to feel really safe to kind of put that down. But Capricorn moons really need to show a lot of love and grace to themselves because that wasn't shown to you potentially when you were young and when you were learning about emotions and feeling those things for the first time, that there was a reason that you kind of shelled up a little and felt like this isn't, you know, right to feel things like this. It's not right to show feelings like this or process like this. So I'm just not. I'm be a little bit more numb. And so Capricorn moons, there are some bad stereotypes out there about us, which aren't all true. And again, I will say, actually, good way to segue. Planets and signs and aspects should not ever be a determining factor for you. If you're like, oh, I have this, so that. Like, people shouldn't judge you on this sun sign, that sun sign.
Oh yeah, I think we were talking about that last week with the personality test.
Yeah.
It's like the same idea. It's like, oh, I'm an ENFP, so I have to be this way.
Exactly.
Like,
Like you are so much more than just both of us, Capricorn moons, right? But Capricorn moons can have a little bit of a stereotype of being cold, of being less warm, which is also cold, but less warm because of the fact that they are protecting themselves. And it comes off as being a little bit more aloof and cold because they're not as comfortable with their own emotions. But again, it's a whole chart thing. So maybe people with Capricorn moon are more prone to be cold, but doesn't mean that they're all cold. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the whole,
I don't think you guys are cold. I don't think either of you are.
yeah.
But maybe
I don't
like,
think I'm cold.
maybe in relationships
be.
it can be harder, or I don't know.
But like you said, like if I don't trust someone or if I don't like somebody, I can be cold. Like there's a difference.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. And then the discernment. I think Capricorns and Cancers both, they're like, they can be the warmest people. They can be the warmest people. I would say Cancers maybe more naturally because they're very much more, a little bit more in touch with their emotions, and they are the nurturers. Whereas Capricorn, it might not be as like natural to them, but it does not mean people with Capricorn placements are not warm. People with Capricorn placements can be so warm, especially how close they feel to you. Someone that is like, I feel safe with you, I feel comfortable with you. So warm. I hate when signs and planets in certain signs or aspects get a bad rep for a certain reason, when it's like we were saying, it's like the yin and the yang, right? It's the two sides to the coin. It can be cold, or it can be, they're protecting themselves, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're cold. All of them are cold. So
and there's so much more to it.
Yeah, it's so complex, and that's why I think I love astrology, because you can lean into that complexity and that nuance and be like, oh, like you're a Leo stellium. That's a different thing than the other three stuff, the Taurus, the Capricorn, the Cancer, and then you have a bunch of Leo. So that flair to you, that Leo flair, is like different than other people that don't have that. So it's a whole picture. But I just talked about your moon basically, and your rising Cancer, so the natural inclination to nurture, to help people, to be there for people, and to be a little bit more guarded at times. And then your sun in Pisces, which also being a giving, person. Pisces can kind of lose themselves at times. They're very spiritual. They're very kind of like in this like spiritual kind of world. They can be a little bit more prone to getting lost in the details and losing themselves a little bit, whether it's in a relationship, could be addictions, because Pisces is a little out of the world. They're the final sign of the zodiac. So where Aries is like charging ahead, trailblazer, like I don't say they only think of themselves, but they're known as a child of the zodiac. They are like me, right? Pisces, us. Pisces sees all the signs that came before them. They feel all the emotions of everyone in the room.
I sure do.
Yeah. And it's exhausting.
It is.
So that's why they try to escape. It's a lot of escapism for them because they can't handle the intensity.
And that's why you're really artistic and creative.
Yes, and they're super creative, Pisces.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that's like literally me.
Yay!
Like, yeah, I feel all the emotions all the time. If Kirsten's in a bad mood or something, I feel
You're like,
that.
you feel it.
Yeah. And sometimes with my partner, I have to be like, I need to separate from you because I'm feeling your negative mood and it's like doing something to me.
Yeah.
I have to like get out of here.
And having the Cancer rising with that is just going to add to it because Cancers are very intuitive as well. All the water signs are intuitive. So having both of those would be, I could easily see. And also like you have the caring instinct in you that you probably want to do something, want to help them, but you can't always.
And when I can't, it bothers me. Like a lot.
It's uncomfortable. And knowing that Pisces people, and this is a good lesson for everybody because right now Saturn is going through Pisces, and although I'm in my Saturn return, we are all collectively experiencing Saturn in Pisces. Not just me, you guys are as well, and you are a Pisces sun, so at some point Saturn is going to cross your sun, which let's see where your sun is. Yeah, not yet, but soon. Not in like probably a year and a half to 2 years. Saturn will cross your sun, and that will be kind of intense. So
in a bad way?
Well, I don't know. However you want to take intense. Saturn is an intense planet, and it's crossing the sun. You're the essence of who you are. So it'll be kind of a whole nother conversation. But we all are experiencing through Saturn and Pisces boundaries. We all need to have boundaries. Saturn comes in, and it's also the planet of restriction and constraint and responsibility. And so it's showing us where we need to restrict, and that's our Piscean tendency to feel everyone's feelings, empathize with everyone, give to everyone, self-sacrifice. And it's saying boundaries. Put boundaries on that. You can't be sustainably empathetic if you are constantly giving from a cup that's empty.
Yeah, and I have problems with boundaries.
Setting them.
It's hard to like stick to them.
Makes sense, and it's hard. Yeah, boundaries are hard, but that's the thing we're all learning right now. And I mean, I'm not sure. I've had my own experiences, but like experiences of dealing with boundary setting in this time and trying to make stable what is so vague and ambiguous and kind of up in the feelings, which is Pisces, honestly. Again, the last sign of the zodiac. So it's exciting that we're all going through this together as a collective world, but it's good because boundaries are a good thing. But for some people, especially someone that's like a Pisces sun, Pisces people with a lot of Pisces placements, it's a lot because they feel a lot of things. So having that with your moon in Capricorn also is probably another reason you aren't as maybe naturally like cold like other people might be, that we're all earth, like everything's in an earth sign and their Capricorn moon. They're just probably really used to being a lot more like guarded, you know, but having the Piscean in you, like a lot of wateriness, probably does, it helps, you know, to make you a little bit more balanced. So you've got 2 water signs and an earth sign in your big 3. So both of you have like that cohesiveness, you know? And I have water, earth, and fire. So mine is a little less cohesive. But again, I've learned, and I think this is something I would want to say to you and to anyone who's listening, just like you have to love those things about yourself, even the things that are uncomfortable and the things that aren't good placements, a moon in Capricorn, or you know, another, I didn't have one for you that was like a poor
Mine's
one, but
perfect placements. No,
you have the perfect chart. But like loving, you know, that like I would not want to not be an Aries rising. I love being an Aries rising, even though it conflicts with my Cancer and it conflicts kind of with my moon. But it's like, it's okay. Like you embrace that. And if you start doing that, you see that like every planet and every placement has beauty. Even the ones that are like, oh, this is a little rough, you know? And I could tell you about some rough ones because I've done the way I learned about astrology was through my own chart. I was my own guinea pig. So I learned it all. But yeah, it's like you have to do that because otherwise you can get really, and I give this as a warning, as you learn about astrology, be careful. Don't take these things as God-given truths. They're not. It is not God-given truths. This is a template, is a gift that we all have access to learn about ourselves, but it should not make you feel inadequate, less than, doomed. Do not think that you're doomed to never get married, to never, you know, have a family, to never have that job, whatever it is. Like that is the dark side of astrology. And that is what I really warn people against because it's something that we all can fall into as we fall in love with astrology, is getting so close to it and thinking that it's dictating our life when it isn't.
Yeah. You're still like, you can make your own choices. You have free will.
Yes.
Do I have a
Stellium. What's the word?
A stellium.
A stellium.
You do not have a stellium, but it's not everyone does. I don't have one either. But I will say, to talk a little bit about your Venus and Mars, because we talked about hers. Yours are in Aquarius, which is fun. I think Venus and yours are pretty close to each other too, Venus and Mars. So again, I love when there's that cohesiveness between like 2 planets, like a Venus and a Mars like that. Because again, mine actually conflict. They fight each other. So it's like nice when you have that, you know, cohesiveness, that like the way that you assert yourself and the way that you love and the way you're attracted to things like
Venus
romantically.
Is love.
Venus is like love and beauty and appreciation. I wouldn't say, oh, Venus is all love. Love is so complex, right?
Yeah,
so nuanced. But Venus is how we appreciate beauty, how we want to receive love and like acts of love and like romance. It's more about that. It's very like, you know, and Mars is like sex and how you assert yourself and how you take action and move about the world. It's a lot more about, you know, it's the warrior, and Venus is the goddess, the beauty, you know, and together it's like the sexuality, right? So you guys both have both your Venus and Mars in the same sign, which is nice.
Yes.
And Aquarius for you, it's very offbeat. You probably want the friends to lovers kind of trope, you know? You like to get to know someone. You fall in love with the personality. You probably attract more quirky people. You might be a little quirky yourself. Aquarius is a very quirky sign.
Quirky girl.
I'm a quirky girl.
Quirky astrology girl. And I think it's also good to know is like knowing your Venus and Mars. It also probably helps, like maybe you guys are dating people that have a Leo placement or an Aquarius placement, and that would make a lot of sense because both of you would probably be attracted to Leo and Aquarius people. And actually, you both would probably be attracted to Leo and Aquarius people, both. Because your Leo placements oppose Aquarius. So those are 2 signs opposite each other. So they're going to have some similar qualities in there. So you might like Leo people. She might like Aquarius people.
That's why we like each other.
That's why you like each other. Exactly. And again, astrology is about everything, every relationship, not just romantic.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you guys. That was so fun. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me just like ramble on about
No,
astrology.
I mean, that was the point.
Those are the stars for tonight.
Yeah, that's why we got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on our episode. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll have you come back when we do. I'm sure we're going to go into astrology at some other point. And there's also, other
could
things
go
you know about
deeper.
too.
I love it. Enneagram,
Yes.
blue zones, and obviously
Yes.
astrology.
What is blue zones?
Like the 5 areas of the world where people live the longest.
Yeah.
I love blue
Italy.
zones. Yes.
Oh.
Greece,
Greece.
Costa Rica,
They're all doing
California.
something
Oh, that's
right.
cool.
Oh, really?
Loma Linda specifically, not all of
Oh.
California, but
Mm.
a little area.
Well,
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
So fun.
That's
All right.
a wrap.
That was Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, that was Elizabeth. Oh, we'll link
Oh,
her.
you-
We'll link her social media in the comments in our description.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for
Mhm.
having me. And if anybody wants a reading, feel free to send me a DM. I would love to help you out.
There you go. There you have it.
There you have it.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Thank You So Much Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
And also, guys, we posted about this. We're still looking for ghost stories. So if you guys have like a spooky story, doesn't even have to be a ghost story, but like something
as long as
weird.
it's true.
Yeah, something true and weird that is like maybe outside of this world that happened to you and it's unexplainable, do send us an email.
Email us, thankyousomuchpod@gmail.com,
Or you can just DM us.
or DM us.
Yeah.
But yeah, love you so much.
Love you so much. Thank you so much. Bye. Mwah.
Bye, mwah.